Hi everyone, this is our first podcast, technically. So this is the Death Sticks and Blue Milk server on Discord, also on YouTube, and this is Holocast. I am Trev.
Did you forget the other half of your name?
I think this is a good place to stop. That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, no, it's too much work to do the or. So if you put the or together, I'm Trevor. So you gonna introduce yourself?
Oh, I didn't know if we were going with it. Alright, I'm Ryan. Hi.
Okay. Jaden?
I already introduced myself. I said, I'm Jaden.
You did no such thing.
Say Jaden again.
I'm Jaden, 3 times in a row.
There we go. Alright, so this is our shitty podcast.
I think it got ruined.
No, it didn't. This is glorious. We're keeping this in. We're keeping all this in. Alright, so if you couldn't tell from our name, Death Sticks and Blue Milk, and the fucking icon, we're all pretty huge fans of Star Wars. It's all kind of like changed our lives for the most part. We're all like heavily influenced by it, and we constantly talk about it. And we just kind of wanted to discuss about some of our personal interests with the series, how we kind of like came to discover it, you know, that sort of stuff. So for one of the topics that we have right now is talking about how we actually got introduced to Star Wars. So Ryan, do you want to talk about it first? Because you actually have a pretty good, interesting story. Yeah.
So when I was like a young child, I don't know what fucking age, but I saw the VHS set of the original trilogy. And the first one I saw was Empire Strikes Back because, you know, Darth Vader's badass and shit. And I was like, I want that one. And so my mom was like, sure. So then, you know, she ended up putting on all the Star Wars videos. But I refused to watch anything that didn't have Darth Vader. And so what my mom ended up doing was every single time Darth Vader like got off the screen, she just had to fast forward and go to the next part, which, you know, now DVDs are way easier, but back with VHS, it was like a pain in the ass anyway to do that shit. But yeah, so my mom would do that, and then that's how I actually got introduced, is just because fucking Darth Vader is badass and shit.
It's a pretty good, interesting story.
I was just into robots and shit, and Vader looks like a badass metal robot, so.
What is Vader not a badass, pretty much? Aside from maybe like a comic or two or something.
Were they the special editions or the unaltered versions without any of the extra stuff?
That's a good question, honestly.
Do you remember if there was a Wampa in it? Like a full-on Wampa?
Well, I was fucking like, who knows how young I was. I mean, obviously, I was so young to the point where I didn't have the patience to wait for Darth Vader to show up.
He probably just skipped
pretty
past all
fucking
their
young, you know? I was just like, I want the black robot man. Yeah, I'm not able to comprehend much else. I think it might have been the special edition ones, I feel like, because I think I looked it up recently, or something, and it has, because the first one, what is the first one I have a picture of? I think it might be a Death Star. I'm trying to think. I know the second one has Vader on it, of course, and then the sixth one has Yoda's face on it. They all have a face, I think, but I can't remember what New Hope's face.
Is it a Stormtrooper?
I think so. I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might actually be the original then, because I think what it was is that those were the very last VHSs that had, that were, like, unaltered. I'm pretty sure, if my memory's correct. So I think you actually did watch the originals. Like the very,
guess where those VHSs are now?
Where?
In the trash.
What?
Aww, those things were national treasures.
I know, no, you know, I just moved recently. We actually found them in the basement, and I'm just like, we don't have fucking, you know, a VHS player, and like, I was thinking of just keeping it, but like, you gotta understand, like, I just, you know, I'm moving, I literally just like, fucking took out like 7 buckets of Star Wars shit. I was like, you know, like, I'm not even gonna touch half of this shit, it's just Star Wars, you know what I mean, like, it was just like the toys and shit. I'm like, I just clicked it for it being Star Wars, and I'm like, it was pretty much like the last thing, and it was at that point that I was just like realizing, like, wow, I'm collecting shit for no reason, you know what I mean? And like, I don't like to be like a hoarder or anything, which it was already too far gone at that point anyway. But I was just like, this is where I draw the line at VHS tapes. Apparently, that's what I decided. Like, nah, fuck it. So that was my dad was like, "Are we gonna keep them?" I was just like, "Yeah, we don't have a VHS player, so I guess not." And I didn't register that it was like the unaltered version either. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't think anything like that. I was just like, okay, so it's just a shittier quality, normal Star Wars movie. I mean, obviously not like the Blu-ray edition or anything like that, but like, you know, it wasn't super altered, but you could find it online. Like, but whoops.
Yeah.
Well, you gave a dumpster diver a really special gift.
Yeah,
If they have a VHS player still.
I mean, I don't even know, like, I mean, it's not like they were in pristine quality or anything either, you know what I mean? So it's not like they're perfect condition, so it's not like I could sell them or do anything with them other than, like, just hold on to them, which again, like I said, like, I have enough stuff, like, collected everywhere. But you know what's really funny is I actually, before that, I ran across the Spaceballs VHS, and I kept that one. So I have the Spaceballs VHS, and not the fucking Star Wars VHS. I was like, it's like, if I encountered them first, I would have kept them and threw away the fucking Spaceballs ones. But of course, I was like, at that point, I was just like, I have too much shit already, I can't take anymore. Like, I mean, you know, you've been to my room, it's pretty small. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, you haven't seen my closet, but like, my closet still has fucking boxes in there, and then we have the storage space with like 7 of those Star Wars boxes in there. Like, it's just, there's no room for things. I mean, 3 VHSs I could have made room for, but of course I was just like, no, too much. 3 more is too much for me. Poor decisions. Yeah, I ended up like looking it up recently too about that, like how much they were worth and stuff like that. And I was just like,
Probably don't want to check them now. They could probably be.
Oh, I did. I forget how much it was, but I mean, I wanted to have sold them anyway, just cause, you know what I mean? It's Star Wars. I wanted to.
But you could throw them out.
Well, if I can't have it, no one can.
It's a good mentality.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It just was a really dumb decision. I was just like, fucking, you know, when you're moving, you're just like, your brain isn't, like, functioning properly exactly. I'm just like, you know, I'm losing my house I've been in forever, so it's just kind of like, I'm like, really like, wow, I've lost a lot. Anyway, cherished thing, goodbye. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I already lost everything. You can't take it.
Might as well throw everything out.
Yeah, might as well throw out the rest of my dreams.
Oh, God.
Anyway, I guess Jaden can go.
That was a pretty interesting story, and I never knew actually about those VHSs.
Yeah, I forgot. It's not a proud moment in history.
I mean, my story isn't really anything special. I just came across them on VHS. They were the 1997 special editions, so those were the first versions I saw. And yeah, I saw them when I was about 4 years old, so this would have been 2000, I think. And I just loved them from start to finish. I thought it was really funny. I remember laughing a lot watching them. I thought they were very funny films.
Was there any specific reason why you were laughing?
I don't know. I just thought C-3PO and R2-D2 were like very funny characters. Like whenever like they were like C-3PO would like say something and then R2-D2 would like beep at him like he was angry, and I just thought that was hilarious. Yeah, and I found Darth Vader really like creepy and scary and everything. And I was a little young to understand the whole reveal in Empire Strikes Back, so I don't think I really grasped the magnitude of it as well as I could have. But I could tell that it was like a really big moment, though, just from the way Luke was reacting and everything. So I guess I still felt the shock of it in some way.
I have a vivid memory of fucking 4 years old. I just remembered that one. That's all I remember. My mom had to tell me the fucking story about it. Yeah, were you trying to like one-up me there? You're like, I watched it actually in its entirety the first time I watched it. I'm just like, oh, well, fuck you too, man.
I'm not trying to one up.
I don't think it's competition.
I'm just joking, yeah.
Oh, but that was actually pretty good, though. I know about the C-3PO and R2 stuff. I remember myself, I don't actually remember myself giving a lot of emotions, but...
I remember myself, I don't remember.
I don't remember who what am I doing here? What is this? My story was just pretty much kind of similar to the Jaden's. I grew up with the special editions as well. I have a vivid memory of always watching like the Battle of Yavin, sitting on like my family room floor and just like watching that on repeat. I don't know, something about the X-wings was pretty cool. I remember my parents were kind of concerned because I like the X-wing dogfights and I like to go swinging a lot, so they thought I was gonna be like a pilot. They're like, oh god, no, we don't want him going to the Air Force or something.
What the fuck is swinging?
I don't I have no clue. You asked them.
Thing. That's like if you saw an army man walk and you took a walk, it's like, oh shit.
Oh shit is happening.
They thought that you were gonna swing too hard and break the swing and just fly off.
That's what they were concerned about.
You just like try and jump off and an exclamation, you're like, here I go!
Here I go, it's like, oh no, it's starting. He's becoming an X-wing. Long live the Empire. But yeah, that was pretty much my introduction to the series.
Wings and X-wing.
Being an X-wing, it really impacted my life, which is the next question I'm just gonna go into. But it affected my life pretty greatly. I remember George Lucas was pretty much like my icon director. Like I like worshipped him. I used to like read all these books about him and be like, wow, he's such a great guy. He can never do anything wrong. And then you grow up and you kind of realize that's not always true, but he's still a huge role model and a huge impact on my life, as well as like the series, the visual effects. Like my god, like they're still great to this day, which is amazing. And it's actually affected me to go into the career path of visual effects as well as animation. I mean, Toy Story had some influence on my life, but it's mainly Star Wars that made me like, wow, I want to be in like the film industry and actually like create stuff and like make fantasy sort of stuff and sci-fi. So it's definitely had a huge impact on my life.
Alright, I guess I'll go next. I mean, I can't really ever remember a time where I didn't know about Star Wars. It's probably one of the earliest memories I have, and, you know, it's been there with me through good times and bad, and like you, I've gotten a fair share of role models from it. Like, I look up to Mark Hamill. I think he's an amazing man. I love the work he's done, and, like, Batman the Animated Series and a lot of his voice acting work, and Luke Skywalker is one of my favorite heroes of all time, so I would say he's definitely been a big influence on me, and the series itself has made me want to be like a better person because it showed like that there's hope for the future in a way, I guess.
Well, that's pretty great. My biggest influence was obviously Emperor Palpatine. He's just such a great man.
He just wanted to keep on giving.
He just goes to show that no sacrifice is too great for your own happiness. I just can't follow the motto.
He's a real piece of shit.
What? No.
What do you mean? Look at that smile.
Yeah, the fucking beaver smile. Yeah, the fucking.
He's an innocent prune-faced man. He wouldn't harm a. Yeah, anyway.
He wouldn't harm, like, yeah.
I was like, I don't know what he would himself.
He'd probably harm anything, like everything, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe not himself, but he never turned off the lightning when zapping Windu, so I guess not. He harms everything. It's like, fuck it, nothing gets.
Everything he touched died.
We'll get into Mace Windu at another time.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
I don't know, Star Wars is like. Been in my life. The same as Jaden, same sort of situation. It's always been part of my life, pretty much. Obviously, I've collected a lot of shit over the years and whatnot. Technically, it's actually the thing that got me into my favorite video game genre, which is RTS, because of Star Wars Galactic Battleground. So I guess I can technically say it should be there too. I think that's a pretty big impact. And then during the whole moving process, there's a lot of other shit going on, and like I was just like, you know what doesn't hurt? Star Wars. So I just like read everything on Star Wars, and then like got even more into it than I ever was. So, you know, I was just like kind of my dependency for like I guess, like, happiness. It's kind of escape, I suppose. And then I met Jade, and he made me realize that Star Wars sucks, and then, you know, everything was yeah, we'll get to that eventually, and everyone will know I'm an asshole. It'll be great.
That'll be a fun discussion to talk about.
A lot of just different discussions. Me and Jaden have, like, complete opposites. He's an optimist. I want to call myself pessimist. I want to call myself that. But I'm definitely, like, I draw the line somewhere where I don't know where the fuck his line is. I haven't met it yet, but when I do, I hope I can shake its hand because I've been fucking waiting for it for a long time, and I'm looking forward to meeting that, but so far he has not, like, hated pretty much anything, I don't think. Yeah, he even, like, part of the holiday special, like, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know where your, like, acceptance ends, or like, yeah, ends. Where do you, like, draw the line in Star Wars? Like, what thing is, like, really crossed the line for you, pretty much, you know? Because, like, I don't think I know of anything.
I would need more time to think about that. I can't just
love that response.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta go catch up on literally everything I haven't read yet, because everything I read I like. Like, he likes everything, I don't know. Which, I mean, it's good, I'm glad he's happy, it's just, like, some of the stuff I'm just like, how the fuck, like... Yeah, like, I feel like I hear you shit on, like, the Phantom Menace more than anything in Legends ever, or anything in canon, like, anything other than, like...
Phantom Menace isn't even my least favorite Star Wars movie, that's the Clone Wars movie, and my least favorite live action is...
Well, speaking of that, that's our next question, actually, that's a good segue.
Oh, yeah.
So... while we're on this subject, what is our favorite Star Wars films and what are some of our least favorites? I think it's fair to say that we all kind of hate certain ones, but I think it'll be fun to discuss where we actually sort of place them as well. I think Ryan should go first for this one.
Should I just piss everyone off?
Yeah, go ahead. whatever you feel.
I mean, I can't. My least favorite definitely is Force Awakens, actually, so I can't say that. I actually don't like the Phantom Menace too much. There's like probably the ending's probably the only really decent part in that whole movie, I guess. Like, I just like the big droid battle and stuff like that, and really all that is just spectacle. It's not really like good storytelling or anything.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of fighting.
It's just like, I'm like, okay, I could just go watch one of those SWTOR trailers. You know, that'll be pretty much equal to that.
Yeah, less time too. You get like 6 or 7 minutes of a SWTOR thing instead of like 20 minutes.
But people want to draw those out to like 2 hours apparently, so that'll be fun. I don't know how
that's gonna work.
Disney will find a way.
They always do somehow.
Yeah, they'll be like, how can we make more money? But yeah, so that's probably my least favorite. Unless we're counting, whatchamacallit, the fucking Clone Wars movie, because that shit's fucking cancer.
Yeah, I'd probably say that is my least favorite.
It was not a good first impression for what turned out to be an amazing show that I love very much.
Yeah, and then it turned into a piece of shit after Clone Wars ended. They ruined everything with Rebels and sad times for all.
Well, we'll talk about that series.
So, what I'll do is I'll give you my top 3 and my bottom 3. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good. We don't have to rank all of them.
I didn't even say my favorite yet.
Oh, you didn't?
Shit on things this whole time so far. Everyone's like, this guy.
Well, the thing is that I think, like you were saying before, we kind of know what it was, so I guess we just assumed that you just said it. But
alright, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, Bane. You can do that now.
Yeah. I feel like everyone's just gonna be like, think I hate Star Wars now, because it's like, fucking. I open up with the fact that I only wanted to see Darth Vader, then I throw out the VHS tapes, then I fucking am like, oh, fuck The Force Awakens, then I shit on Rebels, and then I'm like, Jaden likes everything, I don't like everything though. Like, so far I've done nothing but complain about Star Wars.
We'll talk about the one thing you actually do like, the one film you love.
The one film, I only have one.
Well, the one film you, like, absolutely
Return of the Jedi, yeah.
There we go.
That's my favorite, and anyone who shits on Ewoks can suck it, because I think they're great, but, you know, I'm probably the minority in that. But,
I'm with you.
I do like the Ewoks, there's just certain things.
That's a tribute to Jaden with everything. Yeah. No, Jaden's great though.
But what do you specifically like about Return of the Jedi? Because I know there's a reason why, but
Yeah, you know the exact reason why I think, right? Or no?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I like endings pretty much, so the ending to any series is usually my favorite, so Return of the King, of Lord of the Rings series, and stuff like that. Not The Godfather, that's an exception, but like, you know, like, most of the time, the ending is my favorite part, because, you know, that's when, like, the heroes win, or the good guy villains win, whatever. So, like, you know, it's just the whole final duel with Vader and Luke is really what, like, wins it over for me, because it's kind of like a redemption part, so it's like the Empire Strikes Back is like that depressing ending, which I don't need more of in my life. It's like, I don't need more sad shit. I'm like, give me the happy. And then Vader's like, don't worry, I got you, dude. And he's like, I'm gonna be a good guy now. And then he's like, just kidding, it's a sad ending, I die. And I'm like, well, you almost had it, so I'll give you more points for that. Yeah, I mean, the whole ending duel is just very emotional, and a very cool scene in general. I think it's one of the best duels. Obviously, Bespin is being second. Yeah, I love that whole part. I love Endor, the whole scene on Endor. And then also Boba Fett's one of my favorite characters, even though he's only in the fucking thing for 2 seconds and dies. But, you know, seeing him is always cool for the 5 seconds he's on screen in any of the fucking episodes. I don't even think he has a line in that one. I think he just screams.
He screams.
Yeah,
Yeah, he says, what the? And then he goes,
What, did you say the first one?
He says, what the? And then he says,
I'm not too sure about that.
He does, yeah. I'll pull up the clip for this, podcast. Like, I'll edit it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, everyone go shit on him if he's wrong. But yeah, so obviously he's cool to see in it. Even though Trevor disagrees with that whole part at the beginning of it.
Well, I don't hate the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
No, you don't hate it, but you don't think it should have been there. So.
It feels too like two movies combined. That's what it feels like. Cause like right after the whole Jabba thing, it's like, yay, we did it, and then it just cuts. Like hard cuts to the Emperor. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. Like I totally forgot about the Empire for a second. So it's like, and it also like.
God,
so,
it wasn't Star Wars meets Mad Max Fury.
Well, I knew it was Star Wars. I just didn't know it was like, oh god, like.
Yeah, I get it.
But I mean, it's still good. I love the sail barge stuff. Like that's fucking awesome. I love that. Rancor's fun too.
That's another great thing. I fucking love the Rancor.
Malakili!
Favorite creatures. Yeah, Malakili. We need to fucking make a shout out for him. One of the best characters of all time.
Yeah.
Malakili the Wise.
So glad he could be here with us.
Off in the distant chat. But yeah, there's just a lot of great parts in the whole thing. I mean, Yoda dies. I mean, that's pretty great. I mean, that's another victory for the Empire. So, I mean, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say, like, I'm trying to think of something like I guess like Empire Strikes Back, aside from the duel, has like the AT-ATs, which are another one of my favorite things. So like that scene like kind of wins over a little bit, but like everything else in Return of the Jedi pretty much just, I think, in my opinion, destroys the rest of them, like, for me, and just like kind of puts it up on like a pedestal for me, where it's like Empire Strikes Back is like I'm not too far behind, but like I think that considering it's the ending of all things, you know, like Luke conquers Vader and the Emperor and stuff like that, and Vader turning good and everything, and just kind of having like this the victory and just like kind of putting things to rest and everything. I think that's a much more fulfilling thing to watch than oh, my half my fucking crew's gone and they're off in fucking Bespin, he's in Dagobah land, and then bumfuck Leia's sad and C-3PO's a mess, and like, you know what I mean? Like everything's just completely fucked after Empire Strikes Back, which I mean is very unique, but it also isn't as satisfying as you know, an actual closure. So I think Return of the Jedi on its own is a bit better as well. Anyway, so you can go, Jaden.
Alright, as I was saying, I will give you my top 3 and my bottom 3.
Okay, that sounds good. And can you give us, like, little reasons as to why?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool.
My number 1 is Empire Strikes Back, and I have it at number 1 for the reason that I believe it's the most complex film of the bunch. I believe it takes I believe it takes the characters in very interesting directions that you wouldn't expect it to go. Like, it has one of the greatest reveals in cinema history. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Just several iconic scenes that you'll never forget, like the Battle of Hoth, the scene where Vader is gonna have dinner with everybody. That's a great scene. It's too bad we never got to see it.
That would have been
the absolute tragedy in cinema
I knew
history.
what you were talking about, but I was just like, he has dinner. I was just like, what?
Yeah. You know, all the Yoda stuff, it showed us like a mystical side to the Force that we weren't aware of prior to that. Because, like, I don't think that you can think of it as exactly a mystical thing when you watch the first one. Like, you're not exactly sure how it works or what's going on with it. And Yoda gives us insight into the Force that we never had before. And I really think that Mark Hamill delivers a fantastic performance in that film. Like, it couldn't have been easy to, like, be the only human being on set for months and acting with a puppet. But he pulls it off, like, because he believes we believe that Yoda is a real character.
Yeah,
like, it's not just a puppet. Like, he's a real thing. And a lot of that is due to Mark Hamill being so genuine and sincere in the role.
That's very good.
My number 2 is A New Hope, basically because it started everything. Like, without it, we wouldn't have anything Star Wars, and it's just a triumph in filmmaking in general. Like, without it, we wouldn't have so many things. Like, I can't even begin to list the things we wouldn't have without that film. Number 3 is The Force Awakens. I know
I knew
a lot of people might disagree with me, but I had more fun watching this movie than any other Star Wars movie ever made. I absolutely loved all the characters. I love Rey. I think she's great. Yes, she may be overpowered, but that will be explained later, and I think even if she is just OP for being OP, I still think she's a good character. Kylo, I think, is a villain that you wouldn't expect him to be. Like, watching the trailers, people probably thought that he was just going to be another complete Vader knockoff, and that's what he wants to be, but he is not that. He's a completely different character that's very complex and has a lot of different nuances to him that I think people don't appreciate enough.
You mean to me?
Alright, I guess I'll give you my bottom 3.
Okay.
Alright, number 9 is The Phantom Menace. I just think this film is very boring overall.
Is it the worst
Not
one?
much happens. Like, you could almost completely skip this film and not miss anything.
We need metachlorians.
No, we don't.
I actually don't mind the metachlorians as much as other people.
No, you hate them. I command you to hate them.
No, I don't think they're that bad. I think people misinterpret what they are.
I wrote a whole paper on it.
I just think that, like, them just, like, they're in the council just arguing about bullshit. Like, they're arguing about politics and shit in another room. It's like, whatever. I mean, a lot of people in the Machete Order just completely cut the Phantom Menace out because it's just not necessary. Like, I think that's the best word I can describe the film. Unnecessary. My number 10 is Attack of the Clones. This is my lowest rated live-action Star Wars film, and that's because I think they completely botched the romance, which is, I think, very integral to the story, and they just completely botched it. Nothing feels natural. A lot of the dialogue is just awful. I don't blame the actors for it. I mean, I solely place the blame on the writer, who's George Lucas. I mean, come on, like, I hate sand. Like, I just can't justify that line. Like, I don't like sand. It's rough, coarse, and irritating. Like, come on. And, like, it just feels like there's no chemistry between the leads. Like, I just don't feel anything. Like, it doesn't feel like they're in love. It's just like, yeah, I like you too. Whatever. So, yeah, they completely botched a crucial plot point to the franchise, in my opinion. But I can even find a good thing in this film. I mean, Jango Fett, he's great. I love him. Yeah, and Phantom Menace has Maul, and I fucking love Maul, so... Yeah, that's what I got.
So, you fucking freaked us out there. What the fuck was 9? Did you say 9 and 10?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said because I was looking at my ranking and I just said the
Okay,
numbers.
so that's
that
why
were
we were
before them.
confused. We're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I
Where's
had my
number 10?
ranking. I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry. Wait, I forgot one. I forgot to say the Clone Wars fucking movie
I know,
because we already
that's what I was
talked about it a
gonna
little bit. That movie is just an awful first impression. They make Ahsoka look like a shit character when she's really not, and it just doesn't do justice to anything. And it's poorly rendered. There.
I mean, you could just cut out everything and just show Jabba's son, and you'll get a pretty good sum up of how.
Yeah, I like the idea of Jabba's son. I think that was a clever idea, and I hope they expand upon that in canon.
You see what shit I deal with? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, look at the fucking pinnacle of shit in this movie. He's like, I love it. It's great. I would eat those feces every day. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, he's 1 minute he's on board.
Boy, I think there's like Star Wars has always been a franchise about family. That's just how it's been. So have Jabba's son be in the sequel trilogy at some point, or in a new canon book.
17 fucking young and spry kids that he cares deeply for too, right?
Palpatine's kids? What?
Palpatine did have kids in one of them.
I know, but he didn't give a shit about them. Even
you don't know that. Maybe he very much cared for his Triclops sons.
He did say he didn't give a shit. I mean, what my only way of explaining why he gave a shit about his son, is, according to Jabba, pretty much is what I'm saying, is he wanted to eat his kid. That's why we don't see him anymore.
Yeah,
that's the only fathomable way he could have.
I disagree with that. I think Jabba loved his children.
But why?
Because he wants to carry on the family legacy. He doesn't want to be the last of his line and die. Like, come on. He wants a legacy.
I don't think he gives a shit about his son. He gives a shit about his history, not his son.
Alright, well, I guess that's as much as I have to say. Do you have anything, Trevor?
Surprisingly, me and Jaden are pretty similar in terms of rankings. I think the only difference we have is that I like Return of the Jedi a bit more than Force Awakens. I feel like Force Awakens is better as a coherent film, but I think the moments in Return of the Jedi make it stand out. But I think that's literally the only difference we have when we're ranking films. But my favorite Star Wars film is also Empire Strikes Back. I just find it to be the most character-driven and story-driven as well. The special effects just went from like 10 to 20. In comparison to like New Hope, like it was just like it's amazing how they were able to do that stuff back in the 80s and like jump from like it was only like 3 years and they were able to like change all this shit. It's like, oh my god, like
I mean, it's amazing what they did for A New Hope with the budget they had. Like that movie looks great for how much it was made for. Like, it did not have the biggest budget and it still looks phenomenal.
Also, speaking of New Hope, you gotta add in like your little, cause you Empire Strikes Back's your favorite.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna get to that. So, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars film, and the reason I say it's my favorite Star Wars film is because it like it's pretty much the standard of what a Star Wars film should be, or like try to achieve at least. Like it should be dramatic, should have some fun, but it shouldn't shy away from like story-driven stuff and characters and stuff, and that's the stuff we like. However, while I do say that, my favorite film of all time is New Hope, or I just like to call it Star Wars, like 1977. I like to just call it Star Wars, because I love its history of like how it made, like it was pretty much like a doomed product to begin with. Like nothing was going right. Everyone had their concerns. There's like a lot of changes. But they ended up making a really damn good film, and it like changed cinema for all we know. Like, how we view movies today. Like, there probably wouldn't be like trailer reactions and shit like that if it wasn't for like films like Star Wars in the first place. It is also the first film that I've ever seen, and it's the film that I really grew attached to, and it's mainly the reason why I also went into like as I was saying before, visual effects. So that's why it's like my personal favorite film of all time, because I have so much attachment to it. But I don't see it as the best Star Wars film. As a Star Wars film, I think New Hope is like number 2, because I think it still works well on its own. But I think Empire really sets like the sets the bar for what a Star Wars film should be. So that's really what I'm gonna leave it for my favorites. In terms of least favorites, I got a couple. I guess I'll talk about just a little Phantom Menace a bit. It's not, surprisingly, it's not my least favorite. I find, while there's a lot of shit in it, and a lot of filler, and good god, I hate everything on Coruscant. It's the most boring shit. I think it helps when it has some of the little mysticism. I like when they, like, talk about Anakin, you know, like, there's something about this boy, and, like, even though I know what's gonna happen, they find a good way to keep it mysterious and keep me, like, engaged a bit. But, of course, that only lasts for so long.
I mean, finding out he was a virgin birth was probably really weird. Like, it was weird for me finding out. Like,
yeah, that was certainly weird for me. I still don't know how to feel about that, because, like, on the one hand, I kind of like it, and it's like, oh, it's going back to, like, mythological roots and, like, religious themes. So I'm like, okay, I'm alright with that. But on the other hand, I just kind of wish he was just, like, a good Jedi. Like, I don't think the whole prophecy thing, like, that's the main thing I don't like, that the prophecy is attached, because they don't go too in depth with it, and it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, surprisingly, that's not my least favorite. Attack of the Clones, again, like you were saying, Jaden, that is my least favorite live action one. It's just, like you were saying before, the love part is a huge component to the film, and it just doesn't work well. So when you have a component like that so large and it doesn't work, it kind of just drags the whole film down with it. The visual effects, even though it was claimed to be, like, you know, the first film that has, like, every frame is digital, like, it really shows, like, a lot of it has not aged well, and
yeah, it's showing its age for sure.
Yeah, like, not even specifically the CGI, but just, like, the compositing with green screen. Like, it's really obvious when you have in frame, like, a CGI character, and then you have, like, real life. I'm referencing the scene when Mace Windu gets off the gunship, and he's talking with the clone troopers. Like, he's not looking at him eye to eye, like, he's, like, looking over his head or something, and, like, it's just so obvious and fake, and it just takes me really out of the film. And it's a shame, because Star Wars was known to be, like, that good mesh of, like, visual effects and, you know, like, reality. Like you were saying before with Yoda, like, we kind of knew he was a puppet, but we believed it, and we didn't really question it as much. But, like, you know, when you're watching these, a couple of the prequel films, it's really obvious. But
no practical effects is what you're looking for, right? Sure.
Yeah, a lot more practical effects would have helped. Like, I don't even know why they didn't do this. Like, they could have literally just had Tamari Morrison wear one clone trooper suit, like a real life clone trooper suit, and then just make him, like, do different stuff and just kind of, like, clone stamp that or something. Like, just kind of repeat that. So it's still real life, they just made it where it looks like there's 100 of them. I don't know why they didn't do that, but I think that would have greatly helped the film. It's the same thing with Revenge of the Sith too. They rather, like, put his head on a CGI body rather than actually have a costume for him. It's like, why not just make the costume? You make one, and then you've pretty much made, like, 100. That's what they did with the originals. They had, like, 2 or 3 stormtrooper, well, not 2 or 3, but they only had a couple stormtrooper outfits, but they constantly reuse them, so it looks like it's like a huge army or something. But yeah, Attack of the Clones is my least favorite live action, and then I mean, if we're counting Holiday Special, that's definitely the worst. I'm not even gonna get into that. That's a whole topic on its own. But yeah, the 3D Clone Wars just doesn't do it well. It's very childish. I hate the scene where Obi-Wan has tea with the guy. It just fucking infuriates me. I hate that. I know Obi-Wan, out of all the Jedi, he'd be the one to do that, but I just feel it's, like, going too far. Jabba having a son, I don't like either. It's, oh god. He doesn't seem like the family sort of person. He seems more selfish than, like, a caring father. I can't imagine him as a caring father. And, battles were dumb. I hated the animation, especially an animation major myself. It's just, oh god, it's a lot of rendering is bad, a lot of shading is bad. But yeah, that's pretty much my synopsis on my favorites and least favorites.